Thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. More about them later. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to flash my light. FNAF horror animations are one of my favorite things to consume on YouTube. Whether it's the 3D animations like tunnel vision, which is absolutely horrifying.
Foxy, I want to go home.
Engaging that retrieval.
Or just the various FNAF VHS series out there that give these pretty terrifying stories that are either recreations of the FNAF story or their own original take on the FNAF story that amp up the horror factor by a ton. A lot of these can be considered AUs or alternate universes, which is fair to describe them as, with them differentiating from the FNAF story quite a bit. And today I wanted to share one that I found that is honestly one of the most disturbing and gruesome retellings of the Five Nights at Freddy's story. All of it is done in 2D and with 2D animation. We have a series of tapes created by Happy Tree X1, and while this series doesn't have an official name, we have a series of FNAF VHS tapes that tell a story that is not only disturbing in the way it presents its horror with its body horror, but the way it presents the events of FNAF. And before we start with these horrifying tapes, I just wanted y'all to know that I made a community post in which I said if we reach 100k subs on the channel before the end of 2025, so before January 1st, that I would get the infamous thumbnail that I made, aka He Ate Them, tattooed on me. So if you all want to see that happen, go ahead and subscribe. Please don't do it. I'm begging. But you know what else I was begging for? To figure out an easier way to cancel my Netflix subscription. Because just the other day, I spent hours trying to unsubscribe. Not to mention, I didn't even realize I was still paying for it. Well, luckily today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is here to help. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. I love using Rocket Money to cancel unwanted subscriptions. Once you connect your bank account, Rocket Money identifies all of your subscriptions in a single list. From there, you can select the ones you don't want anymore, and Rocket Money may be able to help you cancel with just a few taps. Rocket Money is also awesome with helping people save money. Rocket Money has helped its customers save up to $740 a year when you use all of the app's premium features. They've also helped customers save over $880 million in canceled subscriptions. To save more and spend less, join the over 10 million subscribers using Rocket Money today. Click the link in the description, https://rocketmoney.com/orbit, or scan the QR code on screen to get started for free. Again, that's https://rocketmoney.com/orbit. And thank you again to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. Let's go ahead and get into the first set of tapes. I'm simply calling the maintenance tapes. The first episode is titled Human Teeth. The description of the episode gives us the date recorded being August 22nd, 1985, and that Dan Brown was a night guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. While doing his nightly routines, he stumbled upon the remains of a victim stuffed inside of Chica's mouth. Authorities never came. He never had a chance to call. The episode starts with text on screen saying, "I'm here doing my nightly maintenance on the animatronics. I was told by a coworker that Chica is due for a checkup, so I'll get started on that. Let me get the light." Suddenly we see Chica, and immediately our main character Dan is surprised by what he is seeing, with a set of human teeth and jaw are inside the Chica, which just immediately prompts Dan to call William Blurpleman. William answers the phone, and you can tell it's him because of the purple text, by the way. Dan lets William know of the situation by telling him about the human jaw inside of Chica's mouth. William responds by saying, Dan, calm down. Are you feeling alright? There's no way anything like that happens," and proceeds to tell him to take a look at her again, and that he's probably just seeing things. Dan turns the light on again, and still the jaw is inside of Chica's mouth. But something is different with Chica, now looking right at Dan. Dan is obviously freaked out and says he is not taking blame for this. But then William responds with, "Dan, it's a pity you came to work and had to see this." He laughs and tells him he won't be leaving and that they know he is here. The lights go out and William says, "Good luck," and he hangs up on Dan, and we see this. So from the description and what we just saw in the video, Dan did not make it out of there. with him most likely either just simply killed or stuffed in the animatronic suit, and at the end you can of course see the classic "It's me" at the bottom of the screen. I think what makes this video especially scary is how quiet it is, with no voice actors in the video and what we just see pop up on screen. It's honestly horrifying to think what might have also happened to Dan. The next video is titled Together as One, with the date being October 9th, 1985. So almost a month and a half after the last incident. We now see a new employee named Jeff Burke. He starts off by letting us know the date, and that the boss wants everything documented on film, as per usual. Which makes you think that William either gets some sick pleasure from having these filmed deaths, or he just wants to observe the interactions of people with the possessed animatronics. But continuing on, Jeff has to perform audio tests on Freddy. He goes to turn on the lights to begin the testing. The light comes on and we see Freddy. Jeff states that he's heard there are a lot of problems with the head and face and decides to start with that. The first audio test plays and this happens. Jeff stops the sound and is weirded out that Freddy's eyes are doing that and that it isn't supposed to happen. He starts the test again when suddenly all the lights in the facility go out. He goes to hit the breaker and... So again, we have a tape that features the animatronic seeming to attack a worker at night, which you can see again the mouth of the person inside the animatronic for a bit. But how Freddy ended up getting blood on him is unknown, but it could have just been him spitting out blood. But the laugh he gave and the eyes of Freddy were just honestly terrifying. And it still makes you wonder why William wanted all of this recorded. To me, it seems like he gets some sick enjoyment out of it. The next tape is called Hidden and takes place on September 15th, 1985. So going back a few weeks from the last tape, but still after the first tape. This time we have yet another different employee, Jordan Hill. And instead of having us at the beginning of tests, in this video he just finished all of the tests on Foxy, in which he failed all of them, and that he will let the boss know to get him working tomorrow. But it's about time he heads home. The lights go out, and we can see Foxy sitting there in the dark with the camera left on. We cut to close-up of Foxy, and his pupil is smaller. He begins to speak and says, "They can't fix me. Nobody knows where I went. I've been hidden too well. There is, however, someone," with the text "someone" being purple. And then this. In a horrifying depiction of Foxy where the animatronic is almost completely destroyed, you can pretty much see the thoughts and anger of this possessed Foxy manifested right in front of us. But suddenly, he returns to normal and continues on saying, "I will never know the satisfaction of death." With that being the end of this tape. The last maintenance tape is called Found, with the date being November 5th, 1985, so a couple months after all the previous tapes. This time we follow Mark Hall as he tries to fix Bonnie, in which he is not responding to movement cues and that he thinks that rust has damaged the internals. And he says he will take the fabric from the exoskeleton, but as he states this, a call comes in. It's William. William calls him frustrated, telling him that he's not scheduled to be there, but Mark says he was. William checks, but finds out he was indeed scheduled, and that it was a mistake and orders Mark to leave now. But as he says this, we can see Bonnie's eyes shift toward Mark. Mark snaps back, not noticing Bonnie looking at him, and says, that he can't talk to him like that, even though he's his boss. And that he will finish what he's doing and then he will leave. William yells at him to listen, but then Mark hangs up on him. He immediately thinks that William is drunk again. He turns on the lights and immediately notices that Bonnie's eyes had moved. He says he has to start removing the fabric from the back of the head. Everything goes dark, but Mark says, "Is that blood?" It cuts and we see blood on the back of Bonnie. He thinks someone might have injured themselves working on Bonnie, but then suddenly Bonnie speaks and says, "Hello?" This obviously freaking Mark out. He doesn't even realize that Bonnie's the one speaking to him. We cut back to Bonnie's face now, staring right at Mark with his mouth open. Bonnie telling him, "I'm still here." Mark thinks that he is hearing things and should just go home, but Bonnie says, "Please don't leave just yet. Dad." Mark pauses before asking, "Jeremy, is that you?" Bonnie says yes, where we learn inside the suit of Bonnie is a son of Mark. And apparently he had died a few months prior, but Bonnie says, "I was taken," and that he just wants to go home. Mark asks what happened and who did this. Bonnie says because of him, with him being in purple text, and says, "Your boss. Your boss caved my skull in." This makes Mark get rightfully angry and says that he will kill William. But in response, Bonnie says, "You can't, Dad. He always comes back." Ooh, reference. He asks what can he do? And Bonnie tells him to leave and that William knows you're here and he is a dangerous man and Mark will not win. And that he did his best to protect him and that it's time he returned the favor. "I'm so happy I got to see you one last time." Mark begins to cry and says, "I don't want to leave you here." Bonnie says he's begging him and get out while you still can. Mark tells him he loves him and they hug. And Bonnie/Jeremy says, "I love you too, Dad. Maybe when this is all over, we'll see each other in heaven." Mark says, "I love that, Jeremy. I promise I will come back." It cuts and he says, "Goodbye, Dad." The lights go out when suddenly we see William speaking. He says, "Oh, Mark, so now you know? Who cares? It won't change anything." He begins to laugh hysterically. "I hope your little family reunion was worth it, because it just cost your life. Gonna report me to the police, Mark? It won't change a thing. Now take a look at your precious little boy." And we see the mutilated face of Jeremy underneath the Bonnie mask. It's horrifying to look at, with this episode ending with William saying he would happily do it again. Start running. This episode is not only heart-wrenching, but really puts into perspective the lengths that William will go to keep his secrets safe, and that he truly seems like an unstoppable force. He truly is a horrifying monster that gets satisfaction from hurting these children. We now leave the maintenance tapes to go into the next set of tapes. These are a retelling of the FNAF 4 story, and it really puts into perspective how horrifying the events of that game were. The first tape is called Brain Damage. It starts off with our typical FNAF training tape intro, giving us an important announcement about the Fredbear endoskeleton, in which in the past few weeks there have been problems with the Fredbear's jaw, not moving as well as it should, and some fixes required to get it working. It warns us that fixing the skeleton of the animatronic and putting body parts near it could lead to death or injury, but suddenly the face of the animatronic changes to this. The tape transitions abruptly before we are shown the door. It swings open and we see this. This tape obviously alluding again to FNAF 4 and the bite of Fredbear's family diner, with us immediately then shown a Fredbear plush. It talks to Evan, our main character for this tape, and says, "Michael's scaring you again, huh?" Evan responds, "Yeah, he's such a jerk." Fredbear says he will keep him company and not to worry, and that he needs to get some sleep, and that they have a big day tomorrow. We are then shown the party in which we are at Fredbear's family diner, with Fredbear and Spring Bonnie or Golden Bonnie on stage. William says that he's been looking for Evan and can't find him, and it is assumed that he's probably hiding. William tells Michael to look for him and not to torment him today because he doesn't want him to ruin his birthday. We find Evan underneath the table, saying that Michael can't even be nice to him on his own birthday. Fredbear tells him to just write it out and stay there until Dad or William comes back with the cake. But then suddenly Michael finds Evan, and it's not good. Michael gets him out, and all of his friends are wearing these horrifying masks of the animatronics, before dragging him to the Fredbear animatronic and putting him right up to his face. Before... Evan dies, and following this we see a conversation between Evan and William, as William asks him, how do you feel that you just killed your own brother? He's done, and that Michael is not worth caring about. He hates Michael. Michael says that he's sorry for everything to Evan, even though he can't hear him, or at least he thinks, and that he will put his plushie next to him to keep him company, always. Following this we cut again, and Fredbear tells Evan that his brother hurt him, and that he will put them back together, before we see the Fredbear animatronic's eyes glow. And while this tape was mainly just a retelling of the FNAF 4 bite incident, I think it was well done and shown in a way that was pretty horrifying, while also giving us some more information about the conversations that were had between everyone. But this tape was only just a prelude to what is to come, because in the next tape, Aftermath, we see how William descends into madness from this event, and it's ugly. We get a glimpse inside the Afton household, as William talks to himself about the horrifying event that only happened a week prior. He mourns and yet feels so angry. He also says it was not his fault. He sits down to relax before 30 minutes go by. He's downed a lot of whiskey, and we can see the cigarettes on the windowsill as he screams out Michael's name. He yells that it was his fault for all of this over and over again, before he's interrupted by Michael calling out for his dad. We see Michael's shadow at the doorway, as William holds a cigarette in his hand. He says he is sorry again for Evan, and William says that he's, well, stupid, and that his apology doesn't mean anything, and if he has any idea how broken he is because of him. Michael snaps back and says not to act like you're the only one affected, and that he didn't want to hurt him, and that he still loved him, and that part of this was William's fault. This angering William even more, and Michael continuing saying that Fredbear was not safe. Suddenly, William goes silent, and his eyes are shown not on screen as he speaks in his head, saying that Michael is a coward, and he has no blame. Before then snapping back and telling Michael to get out of his sight. It cuts to Michael's room where he is sleeping, and Michael talking to himself, saying that his dad is a joke and it should take responsibility too, before trying to go to sleep, before suddenly... The next tape is called First Victim, and is by far one of the most horrifying tapes in the whole collection. This tape takes place on August 22nd, 1985, as we see someone pull up in the car to the employee entrance of a building. They go down the hallway of the pizzeria, where we're then shown the animatronics on stage. Then suddenly they arrive at a hallway where we see a girl playing on an arcade machine at the end of the room near Pirate Cove, where it turns out we are following William, where he says, "She's perfect." William then puts on a Spring Bonnie suit, but when he does and gets closer to the girl, we find out she is crying. She is sad because her dog is dead. He says, "Nonsense. I just saw your dog out back," before asking her name. Her name is Susie. He says that her puppy is with them and to follow him, before leading her to a very suspicious employees-only door. We can hear her laughter, but when she enters, it stops, and we see this horrifying event. After this horrific incident, we are then shown the marionette as he sits in a white void. He waits for Susie, telling her she is home now, but can't go back because that man is still out there. Where we then see this.
Perfect.
The final tape I wanted to talk about is Golden Days, which is honestly equally as disturbing as the last tape with how it depicts Afton's actions. We are shown the inside of the pizzeria as we go down the place at night, before landing on the employees-only door we saw before. Inside on the ground is Golden Freddy, speaking, saying he remembers how things used to be, what he was designed to do, when things were good, before being taken back to 1983, where we witness Fredbear and Spring Bonnie as they play and sing on stage, ironically singing "I Don't Love You" by My Chemical Romance, but distorted. But in this reminiscing of good old times, Golden Freddy says that all these things must come to an end, and something happened that day. He hurt someone, but there was an external factor, where we see Michael wearing his mask, staring with dark eyes and laughing. And then this. Where suddenly after this, he says he felt a presence inside of him. It was Evan. They were bound together. He sits back in the present as he talks to Evan. Evan asking if he will see Michael again, with him not knowing if he will. And we can see Evan standing next to Fredbear as he cries, as a spirit. He says if not today, maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day, my child. While these tapes don't have that much to speculate on, I think it does a great job displaying these horrific events in the FNAF universe in a new manner, with this amazing 2D style and 2D art, and showing us to the viewer first-hand experiences of the horrors in the Five Nights at Freddy's world. While some of it may not be canon, it's still done excellently, and I'm definitely going to recommend you go check out Happy Tree X1 and his channel for more stuff like this. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch y'all later.